Hello, welcome to the sound of silence. This is the NTT20 betting show. I'm Ali Maxwell. Alongside me, I call him Darkness, you call him George Ellick. Hello, old friend.
Darkness? Hello, Darkness, my old friend. Very good.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Is that, I miss, and I think I speak for a lot of our listeners, the sound of the start of the weekend. I need to hear it for my weekend to start. I spent all of last week, as much as I love the Girls Aloud chat, being like, can I start? Can I do it?
Well, we're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're mixing up a little bit. Also, this show coming out earlier than normal means that I don't want to throw people off by telling them that their weekend starts at 7 a.m.
My
on
weekend
Thursday.
Starts as soon as this finishes.
People have got work to do. Simon and Garfunkel reference this week. Last week it was obviously, who was it? Girls Aloud. Simon and Garfunkel probably more apt for us as a duo because they obviously made great music together, but famously absolutely despised each other.
I think I'm going to be like Paul Simon, and when we go our separate ways, no one will ever hear about you again, and I'll go and make some great solo stuff. Okay,
well, I better make a splash while I'm still here. This show is sponsored by AK Bets. It's me and George making our betting picks ahead of the EFL weekend. It is very strictly for over 18s only, and we ask that anyone listening be gamble aware, and head to begambleaware.org if you don't think you understand the risks that come with gambling. But just as a little primer, never bet more than you can afford to lose, never chase your losses, please do gamble responsibly. Last week, well, the sound of silence, Darkness, our old friend, both Naps lost, both Goalscorers lost, the Longshots lost, your next best, Gillingham, great winner, the only glimmer of joy that we had. What's your best bet of this weekend, please?
In League One, I am going to put up as my nap Birmingham to beat Rotherham at 23-20. Most people, I would have thought, listening to this, would have watched Birmingham play on Monday night and beat the fast-starting Wrexham 3-1. And it was pretty hard not to be very impressed by what we saw after the first 15 minutes. And for me, it feels like the kind of performance that may really kickstart their season. Now, that might seem a strange thing to say given how good their results have been to start the season. But anyone who watched them on opening day against Reading would have seen that they didn't really hit the ground running in that game. They then struggled to get over the line against Leyton Orient, struggled to get over the line against Wigan, albeit they did manage it in both. And even though their points tally was good to start, I kind of went into that game against Wrexham thinking, I reckon Wrexham can hurt them here. And the first 15 minutes kind of went the way I thought it was going to. But in my mind, what we saw certainly in the second half from Birmingham, but basically from 20 minutes onwards, was a massive step up on what we'd seen prior to that. And what it now means, we have a fixed odds market, so the outright market for a League One winner. AK Bets a best price in the market, and at 8-11 that they win the league, which I personally wouldn't be going near. Like there's
what
no,
is this, the Bundesliga?
There's no denying that Birmingham are rightful favourites, but that means that they are at 23-20, like significantly a bigger price to beat Rotherham away on Saturday than they are to win the league. And I find that very, very hard to wrap my head around, because there are other good teams in League One. Like I think that Huddersfield in particular are a very good team in League One. And I would have the two of them much closer together in the outright prices. But, you know, for Birmingham to be odds against another League One side, I would expect that to be a Huddersfield, for example. Like they were 5-6, they were odds on at home to Wrexham on Monday night and justified that completely. But in Rotherham, we've got a team who I thought going into the campaign would be fairly decent. They're obviously a recently relegated side. But I'm seeing like very, very little in Rotherham's performances to suggest that they are anything better than mid-table fodder right now in League One. Last time out, they hosted Burton Albion, a game that I think we'd expect one of the better teams in the league to win. Burton haven't been particularly impressive so far this season after a decent game, first couple of games. And they drew that game 2-2. I can't have too much to complain about. I don't think they're particularly defensively solid, which is what we'd think from a Steve Evans side. I think for the most part, you know, there are similarities in some respects as to how Rotherham and Wrexham look to attack, especially with a lot of crosses going to the box. I think we saw that Birmingham dealt with that very well on Monday night. I think also Rotherham are a team that aren't particularly interested in having the ball. And I think even though they will press probably more aggressively than Wrexham did, I think we saw how good Birmingham are at retaining possession and working the ball around teams like this. It's kind of a perfect matchup in my mind. And, whilst Rotherham might be the home side here and they're yet to be beaten at home, they've also failed to get past Bristol Rovers and Burton. And they only won against Huddersfield after Huddersfield had been down to 10 men in a game that was kind of drifting at 0-0 up to that point. So, if you take the kind of teams that I have around the level of Rotherham, in my mind, so kind of a mid-table League One side, I think Birmingham would be odds on against them. And with Stansfield getting his 2 goals on Monday night, and I think we saw just how good he is. I was also pretty impressed with the way that Chris Davis managed to wedge quite a few different attacking players and profiles into the same side, with Williamson, with May, with Stansfield, all looking pretty good. I'm just, it's a pure price thing, this, where I don't think there'll be many opportunities to back Birmingham in any game in League One this season, odds against, especially against a team where there are huge question marks about their quality.
Okay, my nap is another West Midlands team. It's West Brom, win to 0. 6-4 with AK bets. Apologies, I know there's nothing worse than when someone jumps on your trend.
No, I love it.
But win to 0, winter continues with West Brom. You did some great analysis on West Brom on Monday, which you can watch on our YouTube channel. How good are West Brom / our West Brom title candidates? That sort of topic. And the answer was yes to all of it. Good team back to front. They're a very, very short price to win this game. 1.4 to win it, 2.5 to win it to 0. That's what I'm going with. They're very short price to win because they're a very, very good team with an excellent tactician in charge. And they've got a great home record stretching back since the start of last season. They had the 5th best home record in the league last season. Crucially, defensively, we are taking that quite seriously for a win to 0 pick. They only conceded 17 in 23 home games last season, and they've kept a clean sheet in both home games this season. So clean sheets in just over half of their home league games last campaign. They won to 0 10 times in their 23 games, and they've won to 0 once in 2 this season. So 11 wins to 0 in their last 25 home league games. They're playing a team that I think are really poor away from home, in particular Argyle. We've seen them twice away from home in the Championship this season, once at Wednesday on opening weekend, which was a complete abomination, and then QPR away. Not really sure how to parse that. They went down to 10 men in the first half. It was 1-1 at that point. QPR had started really quickly and they'd gone behind early, Argyle. They'd equalised out of nowhere from Whittaker from range, and they did manage to not lose that game, but they were completely peppered. And then they got a big win against Sunderland last weekend, and their fans will hope that can see them kind of kick on and gain confidence. I'm just not necessarily buying it just yet. It was a really poor first half in that game, and they were deservedly behind. Kicked into gear in the second half, roared on by the home park crowd. Helped a little by Sunderland, an own goal from Ballard, a really clumsy bit of defending from Ballard to give a penalty away, a keeper error for the winner. I don't think that they will get those gifts from this West Brom defence. I don't think they will get the same energy and boost that they got from the crowd away at the Hawthorns. And I think there's loads of ways that I can see West Brom hurting them, particularly with Tom Fellows, who's been one of the stars of the league, playing off the right wing, and Barley Mumba, who's been playing left back for Argyle, a player that we like a lot, not known for his defending, and Fellows has been very difficult to stop this season. So look out for cutbacks to Madger, or hanging it up to the back stick where Carlin Grant or maybe the big left back Hegem might benefit from that. I'm really confident in West Brom beating Argyle. I think there'll be a golfing class here. I'm backing them to win to 0 at 6-4 with AK Bets. If you want to sign up to AK Bets, use promo code NTT100. That's NTT100. When you sign up, you can just click the link in the description to get the most of that promotion. And it means if your first bet is an accumulator on football with a minimum of 4 selections, AK Bets will boost the profit gained on that initial bet by 25% in the form of a free bet up to a value of £100. Further T's and C's accessible on the website. What's your next best?
Well, my next best is AFC Wimbledon. Draw no bet away at Bradford.
Big game.
Really big game, and two sides we've got quite wrong on this show so far this season. I put up Bradford to beat Salford at home. They drew 0-0. You put up Bromley to beat Bradford at Bradford.
Double chance.
They lost 3-1.
Yeah.
I put up AFC Wimbledon to beat Bromley at Bromley. They lost 2-0. So it hasn't been great for these two teams thus far.
You had the unders, Wimbledon MK last weekend. 3-0.
Oh my God. 1-0 going into injury time. That was unbelievable. AFC Wimbledon's away record is unbelievably bad, and it's been a massive issue for them. If we go back to the beginning of October, they've only won 4 away games since then, and that must be quite a big reason why they're such a big price here, because in my mind, I think they have been possibly the best team in the league so far, or certainly one of the best teams in the league. Definitely alongside Walsall, the best defensive team in the league, which is a big part of it. Yes, Notts County fans will say, hold on, we're top of the league and look how many goals we've scored. And I completely accept that. And you would certainly belong in the conversation. But AFC Wimbledon are a side who, apart from that game against Bromley, typically, have basically stopped the opposition from creating anything of note and been pretty efficient going forward. And that is a pretty potent mix. The key part for me here around their away form is that I would say that maybe their best performance of the season from in terms of both boxes came at Cheltenham last time. Cheltenham not a particularly good side, I don't think, in League Two, but it was as dominant a 1-0 win as you're basically ever going to see, where Cheltenham, as we've spoken about a fair bit since, had 4 shots in the game, all of which were from range. And AFC Wimbledon, despite only scoring 1 goal through Joe Pigott, deserved to score more within it. And it was as dominant a display that I've seen. And it kind of lent me to think that any issues they had last season away from home doesn't necessarily mean they're going to track into this season. And should they uphold that level of performance, they'll be a difficult team to play against. Coupled with the fact that Bradford, it's just mad that I did that whole speech about Bradford's home form and how I thought it was a bit of a myth that they're not going to be able to be good at home. And they have, in the league, now won 5 of their last 6 home games. The only one that they didn't was the one that I put them up in, which is a frustration. But last time out against Carlisle, obviously it came relatively late that they won the game. But the fixtures themselves have been, maybe, when you look back at the season so far, Newport, one of the poorer teams. That was back in the last season. Salford, early on in the campaign, they weren't able to get past Bromley, who have put in some good performances, but as of late, not so much. Then Carlisle last time out have really struggled. I think this is their first real test of the season so far, up against a really good side. And I think backing, given how good Johnny Jackson's side are defensively, I think backing them draw no bet in any game, a kind of 6-4 and there or thereabouts is going to be a smart way to play it, because it's unlikely in my mind that you're going to see them concede too many goals. And if they're restricting the opposition to few chances, therefore, the draw is a big runner, and you're still getting heavily odds against. A fair bit of odds against about them getting over the line. So they're a team that I'm looking to get with generally at the moment until we see any reason not to. I think Bradford are definitely a good side, but I don't think there's a great deal between the two. And I really like the price we're getting about the draw no bet.
Charlton's my next best to beat Blackpool at the Valley this weekend. 29-20, 2.45 AK bets have gone with, and I got Docket Shock.
Yeah, when you saw this.
Yeah, so Docket Shock.
Why is it not the nap?
I don't like it as much as my nap.
That's a great reason.
Docket Shock being the way that I tend to do this is to look at the fixtures before I look at any odds. Go through the games and just let some thoughts, some stances, some gut instincts kind of start to percolate, start to build an idea in my head of what I think the general prices should be, and then go through the prices. And most of the time I get sad because most of the things that I think will definitely happen are reflected in very short prices. And then occasionally you just get a bit of Docket Shock where you see something that's really far away from what you thought it was going to be, and you dip your finger in and you taste it and you think, yeah, okay, I don't hate that. Why are Charlton 29-20 when they've had a really strong start to the season? Well, I think it comes down to underlying numbers. Theirs don't look amazing going forward. They have a top 6 defence, both in terms of clean sheets, but also in terms of underlying numbers, restricting the opposition to very little, but a bottom 6 attack per the XGs. Whereas Blackpool's underlying numbers are really quite good, despite their results not being great. That's down to the fact they've created loads in games against Crawley, Cambridge, Wickham and Exeter, despite only winning one of those. That was the last game against Exeter, which they won late on. I think their performance level is just quite volatile, personally. Very hard to nail down, especially with the managerial change that's already happened this season. So I wouldn't be putting loads into their underlying numbers. And if the strength of those numbers is helping boost the price of their opponent, I'm happy to be against them. They've got this away issue, Blackburn, since the start of last season, maybe longer than that. They have lost more than half of their away games since the start of last season. So one of Bruce's big objectives is, can he kind of break the away hoodoo? Charlton, I mean, you wouldn't pay to watch them at the moment. It's been 0-0 at half-time in 5 of their 6 league games this season. But they've won 4 of the 6 second halves, and they've won games. They've got good options off the bench that are helping them finish strong. Blackburn played Wednesday in the Carabao Cup in midweek, whereas Charlton were in the trophy. So again, I think that hopefully plays into their favour a little bit. Blackpool with a little leggier perhaps, leggier Walsall. I think basically Charlton will be able to impose their own game, which I'm starting to call sufferable, onto Blackpool. And,
You're insufferable.
I think. Hey, what?
Where'd that come from?
Blimey, a bit defensive about Nathan.
I wasn't even listening to you.
I like him. But, it's probably going to be 1-0, I reckon, to Charlton. I hope so. Anyway, that's my next best, 29-20 with AK bets. What's your goal scorer? We are doing goal scorer before Longshot from now on.
But mine are linked.
Go on.
So should I do both at once?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So my goal scorer is Idris El Mazouni, anytime at 10-1.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting number, 10. And my long shot, just squeaking over the 4-1 threshold, is Oxford to beat Bristol City.
Yeah, Los.
Yeah, first one of those of the season. I mean, this is... there's a lot... Yeah. Ali just looked at the Oxford print behind us for those listening, not watching, on YouTube. It is available on YouTube, by the way. This is a really interesting game, and I'm devastated that I'm not going, because it's a grudge game, not because there's any love lost between Bristol City and Oxford, even though Bristol City's have about 8 ex-Oxford players in their ranks, none of which I think
saw a Bristol City fan call you their feeder club, which
Awesome.
I liked.
Yeah,
and you can see why.
You signed our 8th choice % midfield, didn't you, lads?
And hired your manager and have
all
loads
our
of your
centre-backs.
former favourite players playing for them.
Yeah, I know. But I don't think that there aren't any players I don't think will get bad reception. No, I mean, maybe Mark Sykes possibly,
Half
but
of
like
them
not
are
really.
injured, aren't they?
Yeah.
Dickie and Atkinson.
Dickie's out, Atkinson's out, McGuane won't play. This is like the Liam Manning game, and it would have been anyway, but it's even more the Liam Manning game because there seems to be a growing unrest at Bristol City, and I think the general idea is if they lose this, then it's where it overspills.
Boils.
And for Liam Manning on the touchline on Saturday, one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to get it right and he's going to feel massive vindication and he's going to love hearing 3,500 Oxford fans go from screaming abuse at him to going deathly silent, and he's going to enjoy not getting toxic abuse from Bristol City fans and he's going to go home happy, or he's going to get it wrong, or they're going to lose or struggle or go behind, and he is going to have to face up to the abuse of 20,000 fans and the whole stadium all going at him. I have it on fairly good authority, rightly or wrongly, that the sales of inflatable snakes in the Oxford area are through the roof, and there are none left, basically. The stewards at Ashton Gate are going to have a tough time sorting that out. But that all plays into this, where it's going to be difficult. And there's an interesting wrinkle to this game as well, where Liam Manning and Des Buckingham know each other and were seemingly friends when they both worked in the City football group.
This has got to be one of the wrinkliest games of the weekend,
Yeah.
which for two young managers is...
But in a weird way, like they've both had the same footballing education. And like Des Buckingham even said when he came in, he was like watching Oxford play coming in, like I could see everything that I've been taught. Like I could see the patterns that we're taught to implement into our side at City Football Group. Similarly, you've got a lot of Oxford players who have, I would say, made no secret of their upset and disappointment when they were sold a dream by a manager and then that manager decided to leave a couple of months later, who will start on Saturday and I think will be very, very keen to prove a point. It's going to be interesting. And, I think Bristol City. I think Bristol City are very, very short to win this game at 4-5, given their current form. Since Rob Dickie came out of the side, they have conceded 7 goals and are yet to score. I think Oxford will really fancy their chances off the back of 2 wins, albeit at home. We've seen Oxford go to Coventry and go to Blackburn, 2 teams that I would say are better at the moment than Bristol City, and be unlucky to come away with no points from those 2 games. I think that Oxford will know better than anyone how much Manning's side struggle to break down low blocks and struggle to defend against teams who attack in quick transitions, and I think that's exactly how we'll set up to play. I think it's kind of the perfect storm for Oxford. Now, it would be no shock at all, given Bristol City have better players, in my mind, have a better squad, have higher aspirations, if they do outclass Oxford on the day. But at 4-1, I'm willing to take a swing that it's a bit of a perfect storm for Oxford, and that if they can wrestle the initiative off Bristol City, and if they can go ahead early, then things could really turn at Ashton Gate. So at 4-1, I'm willing to take that chance. And Idris Al-Mazouni at 10-1. This is, obviously it helps. I fancy Oxford to win the game, or I think we're a big price, but it's kind of separate. This is purely a positional thing. Cameron Brannigan is out of this game, having gone off injured on Saturday. Idris Al-Mazouni, in his own words, is playing as a 10. He's kind of playing as one of those like hybrid 8-10s that play either side of the holding midfielder, but he scored on Saturday. He's spoken about the work he's done with the coaching staff on getting on the end of cutbacks. He is a massive goal threat, and will in possession will likely be the player furthest forward behind Mark Harris when balls come into the box. He's played a lot of his football in his career so far as a holding midfielder. I think that is what he's being priced up as, and it's just not where he's playing. So, regardless of the 4-1 about Oxford, even if you disagree with me about that and you think Bristol City win this easily, I think it's basically impossible to make a case for Al-Mazouni being the right price at 10-1, given he's playing a different role to where he's priced up as.
We'll see.
Well, no, we won't.
No, we won't see.
Even if he doesn't have a shot, I still think it's a bet.
Value is value.
Yeah.
My goal scorer comes in Cardiff against Leeds. I'm backing Willie Gnonto to score at 11-4. And this starts with Cardiff, really, and their manager, Errol Bullitt. 2 minutes after they lost last weekend, John Percy tweeted that they were getting ready to fire the Bullet, but they haven't, as we record on Wednesday afternoon, a little earlier than usual this week, but it looks like he'll be in charge for this game. And there is a part of me that wonders, George, if the hierarchy at Cardiff, rather than giving him one last chance, are just like, we don't want to give the interim or the new manager Leeds at home, because Leeds are very good. I really think that if Cardiff and Errol Bullitt are just kind of done, and if therefore it's unlikely that they will put together a performance here to be proud of in order to show their support for their manager. If Leeds are at it, this could be anything for them, particularly from a stylistic point of view, because Cardiff this season under Bullitt have tried to evolve into a team that likes to have a lot of the ball, but they haven't been doing anything with it. And actually, they've had more possession in all but one of their games this season, including games against Burnley, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough. They've had more possession, even at 0-0, than Middlesbrough, than Sunderland. And it's not working for them. They've not benefited going forward from it, and it clearly means that they're a little more open at the back. Leeds don't get many chances to play against a team that want to have the ball against them, and they love it when they do have that opportunity, because they're lightning on the counter-attack. Gnonto's a big part of that. He's a big threat both off the ball and on the ball, by which I mean he can do the dribbly winger, cutting in, beating his man, getting shots off with right foot or left foot, and he's proven himself to be a threat on that front. But he's also really good with his off-ball running, much better than Somerville ever was, for example. Sort of unselfish running that doesn't always get the headlines, but does quite regularly end up with Gnonto like through on goal, because he's made a really clever run from out to in. So I like that there's different ways I could see him getting chances here. If Leeds dominate, if Cardiff are gone at the game, I expect him to have plenty of chances. Anytime has landed in 8 of his 24 championship starts, so 1 in 3. Him being out at 11-4, I think, is quite a lot of value. So Willie Gnonto is my goal scorer pick. My long shot is in League 2. It's Walsall. I'm going Dutch. I'm Dutch.
Yes. You and the Dutch. What a year for you.
A lot of people don't think I like the Dutch.
Why is that?
They couldn't be more wrong. They could not be more wrong. I'm Dutching the 1-0 and the 2-0 scorelines. That means I'm putting half a point on Walsall to beat Salford 1-0 at 9-1 with AK Bets, and half a point on them to beat Salford 2-0 at 12-1 with AK Bets. Top price there. Because I'm very anti-Salford. Again, that's nothing to do with the place or its people, just the football team. I see aspects of their defence where they just don't look particularly up for it. Particularly the goal that was scored against them last Saturday, which I spoke about on the Monday pod. I see aspects of their attack that are just quite basic at the moment, very individual driven rather than any sort of team quality at the moment. They have the second lowest XG per 90 per 90 in League 2. They've taken the second fewest shots per 90, and they have the joint lowest XG per shot per 90. So don't take many shots, and when they do, they're not good shots. They turned it on for the cameras against MK Dons and won 1-0 with a solo goal. And they were poor last week, beating Cheltenham 2-1 from behind with 2 moments of quality from Adelican. He's kind of the biggest threat to this bet, Adelican, because he is good enough to score from nothing. But doesn't mean that he will against a Walsall team who are excellent. They look very comfortable, brilliant team unit, much more efficient and effective than Salford. Everything that they aren't, basically, Walsall are. I'd be surprised if they blow them away here. I don't think that's the type of team that they are. They did beat Swindon 4-0. I think overall that they're a team, to me, that scream comfy 1 or 2 goal win. And I think they're good value to win this weekend. I'd like to back them straight up, but I like my Napa, my next best, even more than Walsall straight up. So this is my way of getting on the saddle of Matt Sadler's Saddlers. Half a point, 1-0 at 9-1. Half a point, 2-0 at 12-1. You can find some of these bets, including the anytime goal scorers and the imminent under 2.5 goals fourfold, on the special section of the football section of the AK Bets website. We've got a 14-1 under 2.5 quad, and it starts with your picks. George, be ready.
I've got them
to talk about Salford, Walsall, and Charlton.
Well, I know them because they're the 2 games that you've got, as we discussed off air. Salford, Walsall. Walsall, for my mind, along with AFC Wimbledon, the best defensive side in the team, restricting the opponents to very few shots. You've done all the stats already. Salford, a pretty blunt attacking object. I think Walsall should be able to defend their threat relatively comfortably. Walsall themselves is not a team who I can see racking up a huge scoreline either. So it feels like a big unders game, as does Charlton Blackpool. Charlton, as we just discussed on Dear Ali and George, our pod for Substack subscribers, Charlton really solid defensively without any real attacking vigour. Blackpool, Steve Bruce is their manager, for those who didn't know that. And yes, they scored twice in his first game, but they were from a long throw and a corner. I think he will perceive his job early on from getting them to be much more solid defensively. This being 0-0 came very close to being my long shot, but I'd already done Charlton long shot 0-0.
Would you say with confidence that Charlton won't let Blackpool score from a long throw or a corner?
No.
I want to hear yes.
No, but I can't with confidence say that.
Okay.
I'm not a
Most things you say with confidence. So I'm sad to hear that you've lost.
But you don't always put them in my mouth. Let me say what I want to say with confidence.
Let's move on. My unders are coming in. Crewe, Harrogate. Crewe have hit 4 out of 6 unders in the league this season. Harrogate have hit 5 out of 6 unders in the league this season. And there's nothing really in the underlying numbers or the shot stats to suggest that that's anything other than a very fair reflection of how both teams play. So Crewe, Harrogate goes in there at, I think it's 9-10. And then Swindon, Carlisle is also going in there. I can't quote the stats to back this up because all of Swindon's home games have gone over 2.5 and Carlisle have only had 1 under so far in 6. That is a worry, and I can't pretend that it's the record of these teams that's making this pick this. For me, this is more about, despite those stats, how I perceive a Swindon match and a Swindon home match against Carlisle to play out. I think Mark Kennedy is prioritising size and strength and structure. Carlisle obviously still an interim manager charge. I like unders at even money. That's the 4th pick in our quad, which is 14-1. You can back it without having to build it on the special section of the football section of the AK Bets website under not the top 20 specials, and it's Crewe, Harrogate, Swindon, Carlisle, Salford, Walsall, and Charlton, Blackpool. 14-1 best price with AK Bets. Please recap your selections. Oxford United fan George Ellick.
My nap is Birmingham at 23-20 to go to Rotherham and beat them. Wimbledon, draw no bet at Bradford is my next best. Oxford to win at Bristol City in the Liam Manning derby, 4-1. And Idris Al-Mazouni, 10-1 anytime.
West Brom win to 0, 6-4 with AK bets. Charlton 29-20 to beat Blackpool at home. That's my next best. My goal scorer is Willie Nonto at 11-4. And my long shot is Walsall 1-0 and Walsall 2-0, half a point on each at 9-1 and 12-1 respectively. And the unders quad at 14-1, Crewe Harrogate, Swindon Carlisle, Salford Walsall and Charlton Blackpool. Thank you for listening to Not the Top 20 podcast betting show. Do listen to Dear Ali and George if you'd like more of us this week. That's for paid subscribers of NTT20.com. We'll be back again, I would imagine, all being well, on Monday to break down what I reckon will be quite a good weekend of EFL action. So join us, have a great weekend and go well.